Hello, and welcome to Thriving in the Field podcast. This is episode 2. Actually, episode 3. Got confused. Can you believe that? How we've done 3 episodes so far. It's amazing.
Man, time flies. We're having fun, Doug.
That's right. I'd like to welcome Howard, our co-host. We're from Nevada. What's the Nevada?
I like to call it the happiest place on earth, Doug.
Is it the mineral state? What do they call? What's the slogan?
The Silver State. The Silver State.
The Silver State. That's what it was.
Yeah, or I just like to call it the happiest place on earth, Doug.
The happiest place. Well, good. Well, welcome. Glad you joined us today. So we're going to go through, why are we doing this, Howard? What's your purpose of doing this podcast about farming
Doug,
and farm management?
If we wait any longer, we're going to be dead.
That's for
we can't wait any longer. We've been talking about this for so long. We might as well give it a whirl and see if we can't help some other people out there accomplish some of their dreams and some of their hopes, Doug.
Exactly. Yeah, because you can think and you can dream and you can plan and research, but it reminds me of Jacinto. Remember Jacinto?
I love Jacinto. He's a great guy. And his wife, Rosalinda, woo.
But I remember,
her Mexican food was some of the best, Doug.
What
reminds you of that about Jacinto?
You were planning on buying steer calves or bull calves, and you were running all these numbers and calculating if it's going to make money. And there goes Jacinto on his credit card and bought like 30 head of bull calves and just did it. He just started.
I like to call that, Doug, analysis paralysis. I'm really good at that, Doug.
Yeah.
Jacinto really taught me a lot about that.
Yep.
Watching
Sometimes you just got to jump in with both feet and learn.
I think you got to plan, though, at least some. You just can't jump in without a plan. But I think you can be good at 65%. And then after that, just start going. Because, that last little bit there of planning, it's going to change anyway. So you might as well plan to 65%, start moving and going forward. And then make adjustments as needed along the way. You're going to learn as you go anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we start a farming plan or business plan? How do we, if we have nothing, if we say we don't have any assets, we have this dream, what's the first thing we do to start?
I think the first thing you have to do, besides have the dream or have the motivation, is then, figure out what kind of resources you have available to you. Where do you want to be? Are you going to be, how do you want to do this? And then once you realize your destination and your resources, start putting that plan together and start moving your feet forward.
Right.
Faith in every footstep, Doug. That's what Grandma would say.
That's for sure. Good. And so what are some of the resources that, some of these new farmers may have, but not really realize they have it? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. So you have the USDA, you have the FSA office, of course.
Yeah.
But I think probably even more important than both of those two are just the fellow farmers. Farmers are very unique individuals. They're always willing to help other people, especially when you come to them with a sincere desire to learn from them. They'll give you a lot of guidance and a lot of good perspective from their point of view, which is really crucial in a lot of ways.
That's for sure. I think working with farmers, they're some of the most humble and most willing to give and share of any group of people you'll ever meet. That's very true.
Oh, yeah. Doug, do you remember Owen Shaw, Doug?
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
Owen, he always told me, I've never forgotten this. It's probably been 40 years, Doug. He always said, Howard, if you're going to buy a farm, buy a good farm. It's going to cost you a little bit more money initially, but he said, in the good times, you'll make money, and in the poor times, you'll break even.
Yeah.
Whereas if you buy a cheap farm or a poor farm, in the good years, you'll break even, and in the poor years, you're going to go backwards.
I'm going to go backwards. Yep.
What wisdom. Another Owen Shaw teaching that he taught me was always keep a journal. Write down what went wrong, how you fixed it, and how you would do it differently, because history oftentimes will repeat itself.
Yeah, that's very important. I mean, keeping records and keeping journals, very important. I think being a good farmer requires being a good record keeper. I know people don't want to hear that. It takes time and effort. But I think the better records you have, the better decisions you can make, and you can take hold of opportunities when you see them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Doug.
Okay, so on this podcast, what are some areas we're going to cover? So, for example, in the farm management, we're going to talk about some bookkeeping and why is that important. We're going to talk about accounting. What else? What else are we going to talk about?
Government programs, crop insurance, budgeting techniques, forecasting techniques, spreadsheets, just basic spreadsheet knowledge.
Yeah.
It may be oversimplified, but you can run a lot of numbers, a lot of analysis just on a simple spreadsheet.
Yeah, for sure. And I think on the crop insurance, I mean, you've taught me a lot about that and the opportunities and the things that are offered out there that maybe the average farmer doesn't even know about. And so there's a lot of opportunity there with crop insurance, different government plans, government programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still learning every day. There's a lot there. And there's a lot of good programs that will help these farmers.
Yeah.
You just got to become aware of them and learn those programs.
And then last week we had a conversation with Steve. And you said after that conversation, you learned something big from Steve. What did Steve teach you last week? Do you remember?
Oh, absolutely. Steve is a great guy. He's our uncle. Really a super good guy and a great farmer. I think the guy could grow potatoes out of a sidewalk. He's really a good farmer. And he made the astute observation that it's almost cheaper to buy the commodities and then sell them instead of growing them himself. So he's been out there hustling, trying to sell farm commodities instead of producing them themselves. I think it's really important to establish that market first.
Find
the
market.
Go in and pursue the dream of buying a farm or a ranch.
Because when you have the customer and the market, I mean, that's probably one of the hardest things with farming is finding the market for it. And
yeah, absolutely. I was talking with a friend of mine just yesterday, Doug, just last night, about this very topic. And he asked me, he says, well, how many cows do I have to have before I can go ahead and buy a ranch? And I told him, I said, the answer is just not that simple. There are so many other factors that come into play.
Yep.
But so I encouraged him to continue marketing his product. And then in time, he'll know what kind of ranch to buy and how much he can spend. But he first needs to learn what kind of market he's establishing.
Yeah.
And then go from there. So, goes back to planning 65% and then start working, moving.
Then doing it and find the market. That's right. All right, Howard. Well, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Doug. It's been a lot of fun sitting here visiting with you about these things. Hopefully we can do it again.
We're going to continue. We will, definitely. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for our third episode of Thriving Farm Podcast. Till next time, keep your seeds in the ground and your water on your head.
That's a new one, Doug.